Hello and welcome also from my side for today's webinar, Machine Connectivity in Brownfield Projects. We will see today how we can unlock the Siemens SINUMERIK 840D solution line with the dataFEED OPC Suite. The agenda for today will be first why we need to collect data, typical scenario, and then three parts how to more or less unlock the SINUMERIK to get the connection, to specify what data should be collected and also accessing the data, and then a live demo, and at the end more or less a short summary. Why we should collect data. Data are the prerequisite for all the new stuff in the direction of, I will say, IoT, Industry 4.0 applications, and so on, because the data are needed to get more or less some better productivity or to have some possibility for predictive maintenance and so on. For all such kind of stuff, we need the data out of the production. The next topic is also a buzzword, more or less, smart production. But the smart production is reality, and also it needs the availability of data from the complete production process. So we need here also a process data integration. What is one of the requirements are standard and norms to enable the communication between the machine and the applications. But on modern machines, it would be not a problem because you have maybe a standardized protocol inside the machine, and the machine maybe already speaks OPC UA or some other protocols. But on all brownfield projects, we have still a lot of proprietary protocols, and that's why we have our solution, the dataFEED OPC Suite, which I will show you a little bit later on. The typical scenario, the process data are acquired from the CNC machine or from the controller via Ethernet, and for this 840D stuff, we are using an RFC 1006 protocol, which is a Siemens proprietary protocol. And then via our dataFEED suite, we will convert this data from this Siemens protocol to a standardized protocol like OPC Classic or OPC UA. So this is a typical scenario. What is needed for it? First step, we need a connection to the SINUMERIK. The SINUMERIK, it all has two parts integrated. One part is the PLC part. So in the SINUMERIK 840D solution line, it's an S7300 integrated, and we have also an NCK part. Both are separate parts, and both parts must be addressed via different Ethernet interfaces. The PLC part via the X120 interface, and the NCK part via the X130 interface. These are Siemens, I will say, notation for these interfaces, but how it looks in reality, oh, I forgot. Please be aware, if you want to connect to the X130 interface, to the NCK part, the firewall of the NCK must be enabled. But in the most cases, it is already enabled because HMI interfaces are also connecting through this X130 interface. How it looks like in reality, we have an example here from a SINUMERIK 840D solution line. We have here the X120 port to connect to the PLC part, and as well we have the X130 part for connecting to the NCK part, and here only the real device X130, X120. So both Ethernet interfaces, and you must connect to this both Ethernet interfaces. So quite simple, quite easy. Now the question is what data is collected. And here we have also two different parts. One part is from the PLC part and the other one from the NCK part. And to be able to connect to the data of the PLC part, we need the information which data are available in the PLC. And for this, our application needs a file, or can be an SDFI file, which is a softing file. I will show it next slide a little bit detail how you can generate it, or the step 7 project file. This is one possibility for the data of the PLC part. And on the NCK part, we need an AWL file, which is a standardized Siemens file. Both files will be loaded into the suite, and then we get access to the data. But we have one special topic. We have already some pre-configured files in our application, so no additional tool is needed if this pre-configured files for the PLC part and for the NCK part fits your needs. So if this is already enough for you, you can work with this predefined files. Otherwise, you must customize the data via the dataFEED exporter. It's a free of charge software from Softing, which can be used for getting out the data of an tier project or out of a step 7 project. In the other case, you need a selector. It's a Siemens tool, which will be normally delivered with the machine. It's also a free of charge tool. How to create this SDFI files? We have this step 7 project file or a tier project file. It will be read by the dataFEED exporter. In the dataFEED exporter, you can select which data points you want to have in your output file, and this SDFI file will be then used for the dataFEED suite import. Similar it is with the AWL file. In this case, we have a .var file from Siemens. You must load it into this NCVAR selector, and on this NCVAR selector, you select the different data which you want to read from the NCK part, and the output is this AWL file in which you see all the data points which you have selected in this NCVAR selector. So it's also quite simple, and as already mentioned, this NCVAR selector is a free of charge tool from Siemens. Now getting the access to the data via this proprietary protocol. For this, we use our dataFEED OPC Suite from Softing. The dataFEED OPC Suite is an all-in-one data integration solution. It has a lot of different data sources. For example, CNC controller, like this 840D solution line. We are able to read the data from different PLCs, Siemens, Rockwell and Bradley, Mitsubishi, Modbus PLCs, or P&R PLCs. We are able to read the data from OPC Classic, OPC Tunnel Servers, UA Server, UA Tunnel Servers, and also directly from an MQTT publisher or from an MQTT broker, and as well from SQL databases or from a file. All these sources are possible, and on the other side, we have our data destination. We can provide this data, which we read with one of our sources through the destination, like OPC Classic, Tunnel, UA. We have also a UA Tunnel solution, an MQTT broker as a destination, web services, REST, databases, and file. These are our destinations. And in the middle, we have some small topics like a pre-processing exchange functionality, store and forward, and also some local items. So it's a complete all-in-one data integration solution, which helps you to get the data out of this SINUMERIK. On the following slides, we see now some, I will say, typical scenarios what we have. One is the most used scenario is acting as an OPC UA or OPC Classic server. In this case, we want to have a fast and easy integration of our process value into any kind of OPC application. In this case, we read the data via this proprietary RFC protocol from the SINUMERIK and provide the data via OPC Classic and UA. So we are able to connect to the SINUMERIK 840D solution line controller. Have in mind, the power line and the SINUMERIK 1 will be follow until November this year. We are able to get access to the NCK area with all the program data, use tools, spindle speed, position of the axis, and a lot of more. In addition, we are also able to get the data out of the SIMATIC S7300 PLC with the data block day information, alarms, and also some other stuff. What will help the customer for an easy configuration is this pre-configured symbols files, which fits normally for the standard use cases. It helps him easy configuration, fast configuration. If these data points are not enough from our pre-configured symbol files, the customer can use, on one hand, the simple import from a step 7 tier project via our exporter, or he can also use the Siemens VAR selector to generate the simple files for the NCK connections. So it's quite simple. It's a fast and easy solution, and it's one of the common solutions. In addition, we provide also the possibility for acting as an IoT cloud gateway. What does it mean? We have data sources like our SINUMERIK 840D solution line and provide this data through standard interfaces and MQTT REST to any kind of cloud applications, which fits more or less then the needs for IoT cloud solutions or Industry 4.0 solutions. What is one of our benefit is we have here an integrated store and forward functionality. So we buffer the data in case of the connection to the cloud is interrupted or is broken, and we retransmit the data if the connection is re-established. So it is also a benefit of our solution, the store and forward, because the internet connections can sometimes be broken, and in this case, we store the data. What is more or less our last scope of functionality is data logging solution. In some cases, it is needed to archive the process data. Maybe you must document it, your processes, or you must want to analyze it later or verify the data. For all this stuff, it is needed to have a data logging solution. And in our suite, we have 3 possibilities. One is to store the data in a standard SQL database, which is connecting through an ODBC driver. It can be a database which is hosted in the cloud or a local hosted one like in MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL, or a Postgres SQL. All the databases which have an ODBC driver can be connected to the suite. In addition, we have also some NoSQL databases integrated like the MongoDB, CouchDB, or the InfluxDB. And last but not least, we have also the possibility to store, log the data in a file. It can be a TXT file, HTML, XML, or whatever kind of file, CSV file. We can directly store the data in such kind of files. And especially for the database connectivities, we have also a store and forward functionality, which buffers the data in case of a broken connection, and we automatically forward the stored data if the connection is re-established. So also for our database connectivity, local ones or cloud-based, we have a store and forward functionality integrated. So it helps you quite simple, quite fast. So now this was a little bit the theory. Now we come to the live demo. Just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, we have our application, our dataFEED OPC Suite. As already mentioned, our dataFEED OPC Suite has a lot of different possibilities for data sources, from file, MQTT broker, databases, tunnel solutions, classic, UA, servers, and so on, but also from PLCs like Siemens, Rockwell, Modbus, or BNR. For our demo today, we are using the Siemens SINUMERIK CNC data source. What is one of our benefits of our dataFEED suite is an easy to use. We have for all our, I will say, data sources, some wizards implemented. If you start adding a new connection, the first page of this wizard is open. Quite simple. You must specify the name of your connection. In addition, you can also select the type of controller. At the moment, we only support the solution line. Power line, SINUMERIK one will follow in November this year. So currently there's nothing to select. On the next page, you have to only specify the IP address of your device. Then the rest is more or less automatically used, like the port and so on. And then you must specify if you want to connect to the PLC and to the NCK or only to one of this. And if maybe your NCK or PLC has not the standard values for the T-subs, which is a special Siemens notation, with more, you can also change here the destination T-subs. but normally there's no need to change here anything. And now we have here a connection test. When we press test, we see here our connection test result. Connection to NCK part successful, connection to PLC part successful. So our communication to our controller is working. On the next page, you have the possibility to specify some extended communication settings. For example, if you want to write to the PLC part or to the NCK part, just as an information, we are able also to write, for example, to the R parameters on the NCK part. In addition, you can select if you want to get the alarm information out of the system, or if you want to activate the tooling access, you can also activate it. And then you will receive also the tooling information out of the NCK part. On the next pages, you can specify your address spaces, first from the PLC part. Here we can directly see the default address space. You can now more or less upload if you want an additional one or an extended one. I will do it now just to show you. Here's also a wizard open, import wizard. I will select this file, generated file. Next, I must select the program, I must select the DB which I want to import. Next, and then the additional information are imported. For our demo, I will use the default one because it's for me enough. And I have tried it with the demo. Okay, we have here the information from the PLC part, and on the next page, we will have the information from the NCK part. By default, this is the default address space, but I can also here upload, I will this AWL file. For example, this one was with some R parameters, which we have generated. And if we upload it, you can see here from the channel 1 also this R parameters. But you can upload any kind of AWL file which you have created with your NCVAR selector. For our demo, I will use the default one. That's all more or less what you have to configure on the controller side. Simple. Now everything is more or less ready for the connection to our SINUMERIK CNC. From the data definition point of view, we will use for the demo first OPC UA. It's also simple, only activate, but have in mind the default settings are the unsecure settings, as you can see here, none, none, and no security mode. But if you want to use security, a secure communication with UA, you can also enable here all the security settings. For our demo, I will work without security settings, encryption and so on, and with the standard anonymous user, but you can also add additional users with username, password, or with certificate authentication as well. So I make now a copy paste of my endpoint. With our dataFEED OPC Suite installation, we also provide a classic client and also an OPC UA demo client. Sorry, I forgot something. What I have to do now is to save and start my suite. So now it's started. I can go back to my UA client, put here my endpoint information. Okay, then I have access to the NCK part and the PLC part of the SINUMERIK. From this point of view, I can now, for example, subscribe to the access part. For example, I get all the information about the access value, which are changed now. So something will be produced in our machine. And also what is important for a lot of customers is we get access to the tooling information. So we have here our 2 tooling magazines. Sorry, but this word's a little bit in English. With all the information what we have on the different places, I can subscribe all these notes as well. I can get the information what we have currently in the spindle, which is currently used. I have all the tools information. From this tool information, I can subscribe to the complete number of cutting edges, inclusive some OEM parameters of these cutting edges. And I can also subscribe, to the complete other parameters like tool number, name, and so on. And all this information are here shown more or less in the UA client as a demo. So we can get full access to all tooling information. This is one of our benefits we have implemented to really get access to all. In addition, we are also able to get access to the alarms. I can, for example, activate the alarms or subscribe the alarm information, and then I can see here, just 1 second, all the alarms which are currently available in the machine. All the alarms can be also shown. So we get also access to the alarm information of this SINUMERIK 840D. This is via an UA client, but if someone has an old, I will say, OPC Classic application, we get the same access also through our OPC Classic client. And we can here also browse the complete data, the same data. For example, on channel, I monitor all the data from this Access 4, and I get here the same values like we get here in our UA client. So it's similar like here. Oh, sorry, I cannot get it in parallel, but you get the same data here and here. So it's quite similar. So what I have shown you, getting data out of an 840D solution line and providing this data through a standard OPC Classic or UA interfaces. In some cases, it can happen. Maybe your IT guys complain a little bit about OPC. OPC, it's an OT protocol, they don't like it. That's why we have integrated also a web service interface, or I will say to get easier access from IT applications, web-based IT application. And for this, I will do only a short demo. Activate web services. I must save it and restart the application. And then you have the possibility through an integrated web server to get the data from any kind of any kind of web client. For example, you can also get the data from an, I will say, browser. I have prepared a special string just to subscribe, maybe also do directly from a browser and subscribe. And now you get also the same data like you get via an OPC or Classic client. So it's quite simple, and the syntax for it can be easily found in our online help. We have here the API functions for the different calls, version, browse, and also for the write and subscribe. And maybe for your IT guys, it helps if you can provide him some samples, for example, some Python samples or via curl. These are some, I will say, possible HTTPS clients, which can be used for accessing the data also via standard IT interface. There's also no need for any, I will say, OPC knowledge. This is more or less the end of my demonstration and also a little bit the end of my presentation, just some additional information. With the dataFEED suite, we provide a really perfect product, perfect solution to get the data out of a SINUMERIK 840D controller. If you want to test this solution, you can find a free trial version on our Softing webpage on this link. The trial version runs 72 hours, and after the 72 hours, you must only restart the application. And if you have any questions, you can also contact us at info.automation. We have the first question from Mr. Brutek. Will this product be available for SINUMERIK 1? Yes. We will extend the dataFEED OPC suite with the support of SINUMERIK 1 and also with the 840D Powerline support at November this year. It's one of our highlights of the SPS fair this year to provide a solution for SINUMERIK 1 and Powerline. Just as maybe an additional information, we will not only support SINUMERIK CNC machines, we will also start to support FANUC CNCs roughly in April next year, just as an additional information. Many thanks, and I wish all of you a nice day, and hear you next time.